What is going on, Internet? Another video coming at you from Ricardo Gaming. How's it going? This is another Hollywood pitch idea video, and I just did one. I think the first one I did was about Star Wars, the original trilogy. So I'm going to do one. It is based on it's following the trilogy that exists right now, the one that George Lucas actually made. It is the sequel trilogy. This is my idea for the sequel trilogy and how it should have gone. Okay, so to refresh, the end of Episode 6, Death Star was destroyed. A big battle was won by the Republic, and now they're trying to, basically Episode 7 is them trying to finish off what is left of the Empire. Okay, now Luke has kind of been training in the Force. Leia is, realizes she is actually Force sensitive, so she has a little bit of intrigue about that. But she's not really focused on, that's not her primary focus. And so this trilogy will be more of a focus on her. So you had a trilogy about Anakin, you had one about Luke, and now we're going to have one about Leia. Luke and Leia will both be in this, so they're both in it. Ahsoka Tano shows up. If you watch Rebels, she's alive. By the end of Episode 6, Ahsoka Tano shows up. And Ahsoka offers herself up to help train Luke and Leia, and because she was Anakin's Padawan, it's kind of like a little bit of poetic justice that she trains the kids of the person who trained her to be a Jedi. So she in Luke is kind of rejective of this for a little bit, but then he actually he just challenged her to a simple sparring match, and she kind of kicks his butt. And he realized that he really hasn't been trained in the Force very much, not as much as he could. And then Leia and Luke basically get trained by Ahsoka. So their whole movie arc in this one is learning how to use the Force, is learning how to hone the Force and train, and they just train hard the entire movie. And this movie goes over a span of maybe a year, but a couple weeks. Or a couple months to maybe a year. And the other part of the story, so there's two plot lines. There's A line and B line. The B line is Han Solo. Okay, now there's a huge difference, and there's a huge story arc on Leia. Leia actually, at the end of Episode 6. Excuse me. Leia at the end of Episode 6. Like I said, not a Force user, but her and Han are a thing. So whenever Ahsoka shows up and they decide to go train with her, her and Han are kind of in their honeymoon phase when it comes to dating, where they're lovey-dovey, they're kissy-kissy, and Leia is very much kind of in fallen form, and he goes off, and then she's training in the ways of the Force, and she realizes that she has to be a lot more emotionally detached for it to work, for it to work. And in the end of the movie is actually Leia telling Han that she can't be with him because it's going to distract her from her ultimate goal of becoming a Jedi. And she kind of puts it out there that I've always been for the people, and for people that I know, I want to do something for myself. I want to do this for myself. Yada yada yada. Which is okay. That's what she wants to do. But that's her story arc for the whole. She's wants to be a Jedi. She starts her training, and she has to cut off emotional ties with Han. And there's some story arc there that's going to happen, and it's going to develop over the next two movies. But the B line of this movie is, if you've played the game Star Wars Battlefront 2, there's a battle of, if you've watched Force Awakens, the planet of Jakku. Jakku is supposed to be the last battle of the rebellion against the Empire, where the rebellion finished off the last of the Imperial forces, supposedly. Okay, I think that needs to be that needs to be the ending of this movie. Is Han and Admiral Ackbar and Lando Calrissian, and you also have Wedge Antilles, all of them with a bunch of other characters, finally find a way to defeat the Emperor, the remains of the Empire. okay? And then the Galactic Republic, or the New Republic, whatever you want to call it, is being formed, and that's the end of episode 7. Episode 8 takes place about 5 years later, where Leia has been detached from Han. She's been training, and because Ahsoka is a much more is pretty well versed in like actually training, because she's been training as a Bridger. She trained Kanan, a little bit of Kanan. She's been training other people who are not quite as force sensitive as Luke and Leia. So Luke and Leia take to it pretty quickly, because they're Skywalkers. They have a higher midichlorian count, so they take to the training pretty quickly compared to how others would take training based on the fact that they're not Skywalkers. They don't have the high midichlorian count. So they're training, and they're getting pretty good at the Jedi thing. And Leia is still detached from Han, and this is, like I said, about 5 years after the Battle of Jakku, where the Republic believes that they have won. The rebellion, the Empire has been gone, and now they actually start hearing of planets being attacked on the Outer Rim, in the outskirts of the Empire, or outskirts of the galaxy that is part of the Republic. So they send troops, and they realize that this is where the actual First Order comes from. It is the whatever was reminiscent of the Emperor regrouped in one area under a new regime, and this is where you introduce a character named Mara Jade. Mara Jade is the daughter of Palpatine. She took on her mother's name to hide her identity. But she is the daughter of Palpatine, so she goes by Mara. She doesn't want to go by Mara Palpatine. She wants to go by Mara Jade. She's hell-bent on that. She doesn't like her father, or she doesn't want her father's name, and she was told that it was for her own protection that she had a different name. So she just always stuck with it. You have Mara Jade. Now this is where you can get kind of interesting, where you have in Rebels, you have Edra Bridger. I think Edra Bridger could be her Padawan. It's possible. But you can play this out a couple ways. I'm going to play this out where she does not have a Padawan. I think this is Mara Jade, and you can, in the other aspect of this, you can throw in Thrawn. Thrawn is still alive. Thrawn survived the end of Rebels, and it's Thrawn and Mara Jade rebuilding that have the First Order. And Mara Jade's whole life, she's been brainwashed. The exact storyline I just went over in the last video I did, where from birth, Luke should be raised to, train in the ways of the Force. She has been raised in the ways of the Force. She dual wields. She's a dual wielding lightsaberist, and then now you have a new war going against the First Order, and this is where the First Order really comes in. It's not as big of a threat as they think. It's just that they're not as organized as they'd like to be to counter it. However, it does create a lot of issues with Thrawn being a very good tactician. He studied the fighting style of the Rebellion for years, and the Rebellion really hasn't advanced their fighting style because they haven't had to. They haven't had war in 5 years. They haven't had any real threats. So he's had a chance to analyze the way that they fight and their ships and things like that. So it's kind of like a shock. It's a shock that this what is left of the Empire regrouped with what is a hidden. I don't want to take something from Episode 9, but it's not like a hidden army, but it is enough of a fleet to make a difference, and it has advanced weaponry beyond what the Empire originally had. It has better TIE fighters that actually jump to hyperspace, have shielding, unlike the TIE fighters have now, which don't have any. That's why X-Wings rip them apart, so on and so forth. So there's a lot more things going on with the Empire than they have leaving on, and the Republic has to adapt to this, has to adjust, and they don't have a standing army. They don't have every planet kind of fends for themselves a little bit, and they don't have a standing army, so they have to figure out how to do that, and that's where Admiral Akbar, Mon Mothma comes in, so on and so forth. And then you have the story arc again with Luke and Leia, and this is a focus on Leia. Leia has never decompartmentalized and never actually dealt with the loss of her homeworld, Alderaan. She never actually sat down and dealt with it. She never actually figured it out. She never actually went over it personally and figured out like, hey, I really need to emotionally get this out of my system. She never actually, just kind of put it away and hid it, and she never actually dealt with it. And I think that one of the biggest story arcs that she could go through, and especially in episode 7, is she's starting to deal with that stuff. She's starting to feel anger and pain from that. And that's all she's feeling. So there's like a hint of dark side in her that like Ahsoka can detect in Luke, and like she has to navigate through her emotions there. And this is going to be very big when it comes to episode 9. Is I'll get to that here in a minute. But episode 8. So there's a confrontation between Luke and Ahsoka Tano and Mara Jade, where Mara Jade actually kills Ahsoka. And now you have a similar story arc where Leia loses her mentor. Okay, she loses her mentor. It tears her apart, and Luke at this point is come far enough along where he can like kind of like help her through it emotionally. But she understands that she has lost her. She's lost her mentor. She's lost her person that's guided her, and she can't control. She can't like focus. She can't like She can't like decompartmentalize her emotions. She can't like figure it out. She can't figure out how to like coexist with her emotions right now. So she's having like a lot of turmoil. So now it's up to Luke to reel her in and things like that. And there's big battles that are being lost by the rebellion. There's big battles that are lost by the Jedi when it comes to Ahsoka. I mean, it's also possible Ahsoka could just be kidnapped rather than killed. So that could be what it is as well. I think kidnap might be a better way to put it. It might be better for Mara Jade to actually kidnap Ahsoka and try to get information out of her. And I'm going to change that. That is exactly what's going to happen. I'll explain why in the next one. So, and Mara Jade and Luke, because Luke, after Ahsoka's been... Luke was fighting Mara Jade first, and Ahsoka stepped in because Luke was losing. And Luke was trying to like turn her to the light side. Luke's like attracted to her. They have like a thing going on where she's like flirty, but she's like doing it to be like seductive and like a succubus kind of like. And Luke's like kind of falling for it because he's never had this before, never had that happen before, and things like that. So she's kind of using her forced persuasion on Luke and trying to turn him to the dark side. So he's dealing with his own turmoil, but it's not it's more of like the C plot in the movie. The A plot is what Leia's going through. She never actually got over Alderaan like being destroyed. She never got over her family being destroyed. She never got over any of those things. So she's dealing with it, and she's dealing with a lot because Ahsoka gets captured. And then we're in episode 3 or episode 9. In episode 9, now it's kind of the end game. Thrawn has his final solution he's doing. If you saw the movie, if you played the video game Battlefront, there's a thing they have which basically it terraforms the planet to like it heats the planet to like basically air becomes plasma and it's so hot people die. He starts doing that to systems that aren't submitting to his rule. And he starts doing that. And Mara Jade's kind of in the dark about how evil this actually is. She believes that all these places were like horrible and they did all these horrible atrocities. And then Luke has to... Luke eventually like shows her that she's wrong. And so on and so forth. So Leia and Luke are like... Leia's still dealing with her stuff. And she's dealing with it alone. Luke's trying to help her, but Luke can't. And then she eventually realizes that what her biggest story arc is that she realizes that she can't emotionally detach herself from everything, because then she gets it has a bad effect on her when it comes to the Force. So, for example, when she detaches herself from everyone else, she becomes the dark side kind of starts consuming her. So she realizes that she needs Han. She needs Han. Han, like the emotional side of Han, like loving Han, actually brings her more stable. And this is where you start actually getting the Gray Jedi, where some people don't believe it, but the Gray Jedi, and Luke has the same thing happening to him, where he understands that he can't just be this stoic creature that is a stoic person that is a Jedi. He has to have something that attaches him to the world, so he cares about the world. He wants to defend the world, and that's what Leia is realizing. And this is where Leia and Han get back together. They become like a family, whatever you want to call it. They actually start dating, whatever you want to call it again. And she realizes that she becomes much more in tune with the Force and much better at it whenever Han's around. So the training she got when she was subdued away from Han is like amplified whenever she's like around him. So whatever, like say she got let's say her power was 10,000, it goes to like 25,000 whenever she's around Han. So whenever she's like good emotionally attached and good emotional connection to the world, she's significantly better when it comes to everything that has to do with her. Like she's better at using the Force, she's more Force sensitive, she can do things better, she can anticipate better, she fights better. So all those things are attached to this. Okay. Luke is trying to get Mara Jade to come over to the light side. He sees that there's actually a good intentioned person in there, but because she was never actually trained by Palpatine, she was trained by other people, like in the ways of lightsabering and things like that. She's not super into the Force aspect. She's more into the fighting. She's just a skilled fighter. And she believes all the things that she was told, that the rebellion killed all these people and the rebellion was evil. And then Luke actually has to show her all the things that Palpatine did. And like she goes through her own like existential crisis, where like she's been told the wrong things her whole life. And Thrawn has Ahsoka Tano to be executed. She has Ahsoka Tano to be executed, thinking that executing her will turn Leia to the dark side. And because she's emotionally stable now with Han, whenever Ahsoka Tano is actually executed by Thrawn, and Mara Jade tries to stop it. Thrawn kills her, and it doesn't send Leia off the deep end. Leia is able to accept it, and then Ahsoka's Force Ghost appears, and she's like, you have, learned what it takes to be a Jedi, and then much more. You're beyond what a Jedi actually is. And she admits that like she never had like emotional connections. The only emotional connection she had was to Anakin, and she felt she was much more in tune with the Force when she had that than when she was detached from him. And that's whenever Leia, Luke, and even Mara, and now Mara Jade, understand that and then Han, it's going to be weird because Han actually has a lot more, and I've said this before on the last video, Han is a little bit Force sensitive. If 5,000, let's say your medical encounter has to be 5,000 or higher to be considered to be a Jedi, to be led into the Jedi Academy, Han is like 4,998. Okay, he's not quite there, but he has Force sensitivity. If you watch the videos or watch the movies, there's a lot of things like, I got a bad feeling about this. That's the Force kind of like, projecting on him. Like, hey, there's something bad coming here. He's like, it's Force it's the Force talking to him. He's always lucky. He's always, he is a great shot for someone who's never actually like practiced a lot. He's a very good pilot. He survived things that he shouldn't survive, like the odds of getting out of a asteroid field or whatever to 1, and he does it twice. He gets in the asteroid field and he gets out. So Han is Force sensitive, and Han with Leia has actually become tuned with that. Now he's not a Jedi, but he does have a lot of abilities to use the Force that he never knew he had. And so this can spawn the next trilogy when it comes to the offsprings of Mara Jade and Luke and Han and Leia, and how strong their kids are. So to end episode 9, the Jedi take down the Jedi, Luke, Leia, and Mara Jade take down Thrawn. He has guards. There's Sith Inquisitors everywhere. A lot of people with lightsabers. Mara Jade's the leader of all of them. But they take all of them down. It's a huge battle. even Han gets in on a little bit, but it's not to the degree of like Leia, Luke, and Mara Jade. She swaps sides, and yeah, that's and you have some things coming back. There's a lot of the Thrawn doesn't trust people. So he has like a lot of he doesn't have droids. He doesn't have a droid army, but he does have those droids that are able to like wield the staff, the saber staffs or whatever they're called. He has a couple of those. He has a lot of that. So you have a huge battle between like the 3 Jedi that are left, and a couple Sith Inquisitors. You have a couple other couple of those droids, and then they end up they have to defeat Thrawn before he starts destroying planets. And he destroyed like 1 or 2 on the Outer Rim, and they end up defeating him in a completely different tactic than they've ever used before. They don't use the typical tactic. They have to actually beat him in a space battle, and this is where they have a lot more emphasis on the Mon Calamari cruisers that they never really had in the last movies. They have a big emphasis on that. The things that actually like they couldn't win battle. Thrawn. This is how great Thrawn is. Thrawn will take you out of your element. The tactic that the rebellion used to win battles was starfighter, and Thrawn found a way to neutralize that. So the rebellion or the New Republic had to find a way to be able to go toe to toe, and that's where the Mon Calamari cruisers being able to take a lot of punishment and basically wait out a battle and win battles by taking a lot of punishment, rather than having the hit and run tactics of the starfighters. I think that's a better way of telling the story, and they have to do that to win. And now it just really depends. From there, you can destroy Thrawn before he does anything horrible, or you can continue on from there if you wanted to make another trilogy, because you got the Yuuzhan Vong invasion. You can go with that, where you have Mara Jade and Luke's kids, 2 of them, and you have Han and Leia's kids. Luke and Mara Jade, there we go. Han and Leia's kids, and you have their growth and development. So that is my idea for what the sequel trilogy of Star Wars should be. The first trilogy is about Anakin Skywalker. It's about Anakin. It's more about Obi-Wan, but it ends up being about Anakin and his turn to the dark side. The second one is Luke's struggles, like in him resisting going to the dark side. And the third one is Leia understanding the balance between the two, and this is introducing the Great Jedi. And once Luke and Leia learn that they have to have that balance of emotion, because there's emotional attachments that make it so you're better at defending the world than being emotionally attached from things. And I think that's something that the Jedi have lost, and something the Jedi don't understand. That the more emotional attachments you actually have to the world, the better you're going to fight for, and the more you care about the world's survival and things like that. So I think that's it. I think that's the video. I think that's the total plot line of the story. Let me know what you think. I think this one's a little bit more played out. I think the third trilogy, though, should focus on Leia. Leia, she dealt with a lot. We never actually dove into in episodes 4, 5, and 6. I think episodes 7, 8, 9 should be a focus on Leia. I think that would definitely play into, and then Luke's still there. It's not like he's a side character. He's still there, but we never actually see Leia overcoming her demons or her past or the things that torment her or whatever. So I think that would be the best way that can play out. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think. This is a good idea? This is a bad idea? Whatever the case may be. I don't have a sequel trilogy idea for the rewrite of the original trilogy that I came up with. I may come with that in the future, but my next 2, I'm not going to do them now. I'm going to do them another day. Next 2, one is a Vader standalone video. I think there's a very good video on Vader that we could do, and I have a Joker 2. That is really good. I've had people say I should get it printed and put it somewhere and patent it. That's why I'm making these videos, because I have evidence that I came up with these ideas right here. So thank you for watching. This has been Darkado Gaming. Please hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, comment down below what you think of this story, and have a good one.